Thanks for joining. This is live with the Miami East Community News. Our guest today is Gio Garcia-Pons. And when folks get done with this half an hour, right, they're going to feel better about themselves because you're going to help them and us understand the steps we need to take to move on and to get unstuck. So first of all, tell us where you've been and where you're going.
All right. Well, I was a senior executive in a corporate company for 16 years, loved it, had my dream job. And just like everyone has that moment in life that kind of derails you, I left that job and then really tapped into my passion, which is health and wellness.
So you're a health coach and you're a strategist and you help people get unclogged, all right? And if you will, sort of like a plumber goes out, all right? That sink, it's not, what's wrong with this? And when a pro comes along, all right, and they go like this and they unplug it, all right? You're going, why couldn't I have done that by myself? So as a strategist, how do you talk to people so you can help get them unplugged?
The first thing is asking someone, what do you want? Right? Think about it. That's such a simple question, but yet people don't really know. So that's the first thing. What do you want? And what is the goal to get you there? Very simple.
And then worry about how to get there, the steps to take or later.
Right? Correct. And it could be anything, right? It could be personal, it could be business, and professional, and career, and anything.
Years ago, I live in horse country, we asked the county traffic folks to come out because we were having a traffic problem. They said, what would you like to accomplish? And we said, we want to get traffic humps, they call it, or bumps out in horse country. No. What do you want to get done? Not how it's going to get done. Well, we want to slow down the traffic. He says, well, I got a box of tools over here. And what do you mean? Well, we can make the roads thinner. We can put in sidewalks. We can put in trees. We can put in lights. We could do traffic circles. We can put in traffic humps. So tell us what you'd like to get done, and we'll coach you and get it done. So when people come to you, and you've been in the business for quite a while at this point, and you're from Texas.
I am.
All right. And when you were in Texas, you look tall enough to play basketball.
That is correct. So I do have an athletic background. I played basketball throughout my entire youth. And then I was the lucky recipient that I was able to pay for my college education in college.
No kidding. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
So you were good too, besides being tall.
Listen, I can hold my own.
So my brother-in-law by marriage played for Milwaukee Bucks. All right, 7'3". All right. So it goes from University of Minnesota to Milwaukee Bucks, is in the championships the first year. And it was really nifty to watch that process. So being tall in itself is not enough, right? You have to be good, whether you're 5'10" or 6'3". By the way, how tall are you?
I'm 5'9", but I always wear heels. So you can put me at like 6'1".
Yes. Okay. So you're down in Texas. You decided to come over here to Miami.
Yes.
What drove you over here?
So I have a love affair with Miami. However, I say it's a love-hate relationship, right? But it really comes from that I was born in Nicaragua. A lot of people don't realize that I was born in Central America, and I actually speak very fluent Spanish. You wouldn't notice by my English, but yeah.
That's terrific. Why and how did you wind up being a health consultant and a health motivator and we'll work on you and help you get better? What caused you to do this?
And I'm so glad you asked that, Michael, because that's what I'm so passionate about. And it's really about my time in the corporate world. I was in an environment that I didn't have the self-awareness of what was happening to then regulate myself. And what that means is that I put myself in a position where I became burnt out. I'm the believer that once you become burnt out, that's it. You're at the point of no return, and it's very difficult to come back. And it's things around that I wish I had the tools and resources around me to understand what was happening, whether it was because I was working 24/7, whether it was because I was not managing my stress well. I took on bad habits of not eating well, probably drinking too much at one point, not being present with my family. So all of a sudden it was like a trickle down effect, which ultimately hurt my performance at work. And I exited, I left. So from that piece, I walked away because for me, it really derailed me in a way that I asked myself, what am I doing? What do I want to do next? And I realized that not only do I come from a foundation of health and wellness and being an athlete, but now I was fueled by helping others so that they didn't fall like I fell.
we know during the last 18 months, people have been going through lots of emotional, social, and some mental illness issues about wondering what to do. Certainly, there's a high degree of unemployment, but the reality is a lot of those people have made some decisions not to return, not just to what they were doing, but not to return, some of them at all, all right? Because there's so many jobs, all right, out there. If people wanted to work, they could do that. But people have really started making real decisions about, I don't want to drive for 2 hours anymore a day. I don't want to do this. I'm going to stay home with the kids for a couple of years, and we can lower our expenses, or maybe the husband or wife would make more money. So this is a time for a lot of people to make decisions about where they're going and where they want to be in the next 6 months.
Listen, it goes back to what we talked about from the beginning, and it goes back to what is it that you want as an individual? What do you want? And in wanting that, and if you get it, what is that going to do for you?
So if I was your client and you said, Michael, how can I help you? What would be some of the questions that you might ask and want me to engage with you so that we can sort of map out where to be, and then the steps later how to get to it?
Yeah. So the first question is really in not having any limitations, challenges, or obstacles, or allowing fear to get in the way, or worried about whether truly you want that or not. It's really, what do you want? It doesn't matter how big it is. It doesn't matter if you tell me that you have a new business idea, and with that you want to make this kind of money and you want to build this whole, business around it. Nothing is, everything's limitless, right? So the first thing is think big, really, really big, right? Don't allow anything to hold you back from telling me what it is that you want.
The city of South Miami, we're in the city here, has made a decision to move forward on putting together a design for a new police station. They know where it would go because they have the property, but they currently do not have the funding. But that's not stopping them. What they said is, this is what we want, all right? And it has to be in the city someplace. We're going to worry about the money later. As soon as we can change, we could create a picture for other people, so that I just suppose some government like the county, state, or federal government might help fund that. And we know that having vision matters, and that sometimes people need to be able to create that in order for them to move on. Now, 18 months ago, 20 months ago, when we were trying to figure out how to help the community stay together, we had an iPhone and a $20 stand in this room. And we said, hey, we're going to do some Facebook Live. You want to come over? There was a line literally out the door. And we said, wow, there's something there. And we didn't know before we did that. Now we do 20 to 30 shows a week, distributing them like crazy, all right? And we had no clue. But we said, this is what we want to do. And when we spoke to the different chambers of commerce and said, listen, you have 100 people in your group, you need to come here and communicate with them on a different level. We walked those people through it once they decided what they wanted, which was, we want to be able to communicate with our members. And we helped create a tool for that. So somebody sitting with you, all right? I noticed we haven't talked about any exercise or health at this point.
It's okay.
All right. And so somebody says, I want to accomplish, I'd like to be whatever it happens to be. How many times do you have to ask somebody usually before they spit out what they really want? Because losing 20 pounds, there's something connected to that other than the loss of 20 pounds.
So I love to use the acronym MOFO, M-O-F-A, motivating factor, your why. Why do you want this, right? So you say something as, I want to open up my new business. I say to you, well, why? What would opening up my own business do for you? Oh, because it would provide financial support for my family. Great. So why do you want that financial support for your family? What would that do for you? Well, it would allow me to, not only provide for my family, but it would allow me to really secure my kids their college education. Well, great. Why is that important to you? Well, to be honest with you, nobody in my family went to college. I would love to see my daughters and, be the first ones to graduate college. Great. So now, why is that important to you? You know what? Because that's really going to seal my purpose as a father, and what I want to see them become. Okay, great. There you go. That's the why, right? So it's not about opening up the business. It's about setting that legacy as a father to their kids to go to college and be the first ones.
When my kids were this big, I said, listen, you got to do two things. Get your master's and speak Spanish. All right.
That's very
So
good advice.
so both of them, actually one got one master's, another one got two. Neither one speaks Spanish, but we tried. All right. So that was really important to me.
Yeah.
Because I was the first one to graduate from college, right? And in my family. And it was important that my children be, as I explained to them, it's better to be unemployed with a master's than it is with a bachelor's. So go do this over there. And when you get done, go do whatever that you want to do. So each of us have our own motivation with that. Now, I noticed the name of your website is what? GIO Balance?
GIO Balance.
GIOBalance.com.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So how did you create that name? What caused you to do that?
I'm all about balance. I've always strived in life to be able to get everything done in a way that I feel satisfied and happy. And when I looked at it, I said, what are the things that I'm doing to help that? And so I kind of went off my name, Gio, more like Go Balance, and looking at the 5 areas of life and how we can juggle everything. Because I will tell you, one of my biggest pet peeves is that when people say, oh, I don't have time, right? Though time is finite, depending on your experience with time, it could be subjective. So don't tell me that you don't have time, right? So you can balance, you can have that optimal balance. So actually the GO stands for growing into optimal balance.
Well, interesting that you were a basketball player. You always had to be balanced.
Yeah.
And when you weren't balanced, things would happen.
Yeah.
As a non-basketball player, what's it like when you jump up, of course you go up and down and you fall? What is that like? Are you concerned about getting hurt, or just like an occupational hazard?
As long as you prepare for whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing, then you are ready for any challenge. So I never really thought about it because I know that I had done the right things to prepare myself to be in that situation.
So we're going to take a look at one of your videos. We have a 30-second video.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
So this is the work that I do with corporate companies and helping them establish their wellness programs. And one of the biggest topics that we talk about is stress management.
Good. We're going to talk about that. We're going to watch Dex.
That's exactly it. So we create stories in our head that create stress and anxiety. We do that. So back to what I was saying when we talked about stress, it's not what you're doing, it's how you're being that causes your health to go completely down. Okay. So here's how the 3 ways the inner critic will always win. Okay. Number 1, expectations. We all have them. We all do them. And if you say that you don't have expectations, I'm going to tell you the 5 ways to prove that you do have expectations.
Okay, and we do. I think all of us, whether it's over here or over here. Let's talk about stress. Certainly in the last year and a half, people have been under huge amounts of stress. And by the way, if you're having a lot of stress, you can call a trusted person, your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, religious leader. You can call, I think it's 211 or 311. They'll be able to direct you. There's certainly the National Alliance for Mental Illness that can help you. There's Switchboard. There's a new name on that. Don't do anything stupid. Talk to a friend and get yourself some help. All right. So when people are having stress, this is a pretty stressful time, especially, it's like little kids like this, 20% of their life has been with COVID. That's gigantic, all right? And so we've been doing about the same thing for almost 2 years. And for people that were paying attention, it was September, October, November of whatever year that was, all right, that we started hearing about this.
Yeah.
And if we knew then what we know now about the almost 2 years of going through this, we probably wouldn't have been as healthy as we are today, emotionally as healthy, because we're able to take this in little increments. So people have a lot of stress. What does stress do to most people?
Well, the first thing is it produces cortisol, which is the hormone that if stress is chronic, that's where people really get affected with their health and end up in the hospital. So you've heard of that incident where someone shows up to the hospital, they say, I'm having a heart attack. They hook you up. They look you over and they say, you're not, it's stress, right? So that's the biggest thing, is that stress causes a lot of health issues with producing cortisol. Number 2, your digestive system shuts down, right? So that's when we don't burn fat. Okay. And then of course, stress then turns into anxiety, which ultimately affects emotions, which ultimately leads to burnout.
So here we are, September 2021. Almost everybody's been under some humongous amount of stress. Almost everybody, certainly recently, knows folks that have had COVID. By the way, there's glass in between us here. Some people think it's just we're in different places, but there's some glass here. And the stress affects themselves, their family, their children, and their work.
Yeah.
And we know what we've done here for a year and a half. We have people still working at home, all right? Most people have separate rooms altogether, but the need to belong is still there. So whatever need was being fulfilled before by your office family is not there.
Yes.
And so how does that demonstrate itself to the average person, again, that is not able to be satisfied? And
Yeah. So as humans, there's three things that we like to keep intact, and that's our love, safety, and belonging. Those are the three things that create our belief system in our world and keeps us just satisfied and enjoying our life. And you're not crazy, right? If you feel overwhelmed or stressed. And why? Because as humans, our brains are only equipped to take on so much stress. In needing a break. And what happened with COVID is it was ongoing. So our capacity got to a point where we started seeing the effects of stress. So the love, safety, and belonging is so important because people, what I say happened with COVID is that your external distractions were all taken away and you had to focus and became isolated. And in being isolated, a lot of things happened and came up for you. So belonging, being part of a community, whether it's with friends, your business, all that is such an important piece to keeping all this intact.
my wife hates it when I tell this story, but a year ago, I went and got a pedicure. I brought somebody in, they did it here, manicure. I go home. She says, "You can't come in." I go, "What?" "Because you had a pedicure, you don't care enough about me that you could bring it home." I said, "I'm coming in." She said, "No, well, I locked it from the inside." And so I said, "Okay." So we came here, took a video of our kitchen, bathroom, the shower, a cot. She says, "Put your name on that cot because that's where you're going to be." A couple of days later, she sort of loosened up, but she was sending a message, which is, "I don't handle it as well as you do. And my stress level is very high," because she was staying at home for all the time. I was out and about. So I was able to relieve some of that stress. So everybody handles a little bit differently.
100%.
We have some people here, they don't have any problem. They're out. Other people say, "Stay over there."
Yep.
All right. So here we have a lot of stress, people handling it a little differently. A lot of people are now concerned about going back to work, not just for COVID, but like, how do I behave now? All right. It's like, do you fist bump? Do you do this? Do you do that? You stay in the other room. How do you communicate? Do you stand close to somebody? Do you not? And that can certainly affect the psyche. So in working with clients, you sort of figure out where they're at. Do they volunteer that?
They do, right? Because first of all, it's a safe zone, no judgment. And what I always say is there's no right or wrong. I'm there to just listen to you and ask you questions. And half of the battle, or should I say half the solution, is listening to yourself speak out loud because you have the solution. You know what to do. We just have to get it out of you. And I will tell you that the math formula, secret formula, call it whatever you want, is really a simple thing. And that's self-awareness plus self-regulation. So having the awareness to know when things are happening to you and how does that manifest from you, right? Some people get grouchy. Some people might get sick. Some people, their body signals them differently by having pain, right? So having the self-awareness that you're under stress and things are happening, and then knowing what to do to regulate that. Because here's the thing, we're never going to get rid of stress. This is part of our lives. And we have to learn how to cope with it and reduce it. So a lot of tactics, a lot of things, but at the end of the day, yes, everyone does disclose what's happening because people just want to be heard. People want to tell you their story.
There was a young man that came in. He had 10 years ago, had a schizophrenic break, and he wrote a song, "You're Not Alone," and he sang it and he wrote the music to it. I'm bawling. I'm like out of control because I'm imagining him walking along Biscayne Boulevard, no shirt, no shoes, wondering where he was going to go. And his mother was here. Right? He was 30. Now he's about 30. And when that was going on, what he was saying is to himself and to others, you're not alone. There are people that can help. We just want to know why men never ask for directions, all right? And women can. I know that's a wives old wives' tale, but there are some truths to that about each of us. I don't need help. I can do this by myself.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought that up because I am very passionate about working with men. And why? Because it's a society thing. The society tells men that they're not allowed to express or show emotions, that they are the head of household, that they're supposed to keep it together, not understanding that men are human and they go through the same thing, right?
So when I used to work out a long time ago, I'd be doing the bench presses, and then I'd get it close to the top, and the trainer would like pull it up. I'm saying to myself, I could do this. I can do this, right? And I'm going, well, maybe you can, but maybe you can't. When I am reminded of my son when he was a little child like this, he went to put on his shirt. I went to put on. I said, no, I can do it, Dad. Okay. 30 seconds later, he's stuck in the shirt. And sometimes we do get stuck on about what to do, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's the weights right here and you need a
Mm-hmm.
little help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But so many people are still hesitant. And when men do it, all right, when men are like, I could do it myself, it's one thing. When women do stuff like that, we tend to call them some degrading remark, all right, to do that. But how, if somebody calls you about being stuck,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that you're going to do besides a conversation like that? Are there some, is there a program that they get into so they can say, hey, we're going to start here and here's our next step and here's this? How does that work?
Yeah. So it's never about what we start with at the beginning, right? Because what we realize is that you would not be coming to me if you were able to do it already by yourself. So that means that there's something standing in the way, which that is what keeps you stuck. So when I work with clients, it's about identifying what is it that's keeping you stuck and let's eliminate it. And most of the time, it's a mindset. It's something that you're believing about yourself that's holding you back.
So how would you categorize if somebody's going to say, well, what do you do? And we think the functions, you do
Yeah.
this and you
Yeah.
do. So what would you call yourself? I know we call it, yeah, a health
Health
coach,
coach.
right?
Yes.
But you're not going to a gym,
No,
right?
no, yeah. And that's the misconception, right? A lot of people think, oh, I'm a physical trainer. No, I'm not. I specialize in wellness and performance. So, what does that mean? That means that I'm going to recharge your life, right? How I'm going to do that is by harnessing the power of habit and your mind. And how we're going to do that even further is by taking a look at your lifestyle and building that lifestyle that you want, starting from a routine and what needs to be in place in order to reach what it is that you want. Because ultimately, that's what I get all the time from clients. I just want a lifestyle that I can maintain that's going to give me what it is that I'm looking for.
Well, it's funny because we have some clients that say, and we're in lots of different arenas, but somebody says, I could do that myself, and I go, yes, you could, but let me ask something. Do you own a home? Yes. Does it ever need painting? He goes, yes. I said, so do you paint it yourself? No, I pay somebody to do it. I go, well, why do you pay somebody to do it when you could do it yourself? You could go to the same stores that they go to, get the same paint. Well, because they're professionals, because they know how to do it, especially around the edges where it
Mhm.
matters, so they don't ruin your ceiling or the carpet. And when we explain that to people, all of a sudden it seems to be easier for them to move forward. But what's his name? Shaq O'Neal. I bet he had coaches all the time.
Absolutely.
And I,
And
I know he's an older
yeah,
player, but
yeah,
they all have coaches.
yeah.
So
All of them do.
so why is it that some folks say I don't need to do that? But well, we know football, baseball, soccer, hockey, right?
Yeah,
Even professional Olympians, and we've seen two Olympians recently,
yeah.
both have like, you know, they had some issues going on. And when you looked at them, you knew that they were traumatized, all right, by whatever it was, all right? Because we look at it, oh, they're great, they could handle all that. Really? Well, and that was one of the greatest things that happened recently. Like, they're just people,
Yeah.
all right? So back to somebody that they need, recognize they need some help. Why should they call you?
So it's about gaining support, having somebody who's going to listen to you and help you figure out how to get the things that you want. But ultimately, it's about recharging your life and gaining that joy and satisfaction that we all seek, because that's what we all want ultimately. No matter what that goal is, it's never about losing the 20 pounds. It's never about opening up your business. It's never about buying that house. It's what is it that you're gaining from it? What is that going to do for you? And that's the piece. So I take you from I want to do it to I did it.
Interesting enough that my father was on radio and TV in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And who knew? And then I was in a different arena, and I started doing newspapering. And at first I thought we were printers. Then I thought I was in the newspaper business. Then it was in the communication business. Then it was in the marketing business, all with different tools to be able to do that. The fulfillment that my brother and I have by doing this right here and knowing that 50 years ago, 60 years ago, my father was doing we were doing very similar to what he did. Not as well, but doing it nevertheless. That is very fulfilling. I can feel the flowing,
Yes.
back and forth. And it's like the understanding that I have about myself and the things we want to accomplish while we're here is very satisfying. And to be able to help other people really high up on our level. Now, we know that we have Mental Health Awareness Month is in October. September is
National Suicide Prevention Month.
And we know there's a lot of that. I personally know 4 people in the last 5 years that committed suicide. And it's a terrible thing because some people get lost, right? And so somebody might be watching this and going, well, I'm not sure, all right, what I should do. We have 3 minutes left. So what questions could they ask themselves, all right, to make a determination whether they're going to try it themselves or they're going to seek a coach?
Yeah. So it goes back to where we started this conversation. First of all, you summed it up so perfectly. And with using the word fulfillment, that's huge. It goes back to what do you want? And how are you going to get there? And the how is where you seek the support, right? That's it.
It's interesting. As we get into this different arena, I realize that in some business stuff, I'm stuck with some of the stuff. And why? Because the people I surrounded myself with, they can't do this over here. This is over here. So every time I ask this person over here to do this work, they stare at me and they go, Michael, that's not my bailiwick. We need to get somebody that was from over here. Then you realize how that backs up on ourselves and you go, okay, well, you have to be able to take a chance and risk and going out and doing that. Gio, it's been a pleasure. We're going to do this again next month, all right? Because I think that you have a lot to offer people.
Thank you.
All right? And people can find you at giobalance.com.
Absolutely.
Okay. And we want to thank Dex for the show. And again, our guest today is health coach and strategist Gio Garcia-Pons. All right. Interesting last name. Fluent Spanish right over here, folks. From where?
Nicaragua.
And Texas.
Raised in Texas.
Okay. And she is tall and she does have, what do you have on your ankle?
I do have a Texas girl tattoo.
And that's what it says. Texas girl right on her ankle. So anytime you want to talk with Gio, feel free to call her. Again, thanks for your time. Again, this is Live with Miami's Community News. Thank you very much.